Hello and welcome to my trip down memory lane, I guess. We're going to have a look at the Citadel Miniatures 1999 annual. I've been wanting to do this video for ages, like over a year. Not just for the price sort of comparison of what you could get back, 25 years ago, but mainly I look at how times have changed in that we didn't have online back then. Like, we didn't have a Games Workshop web store. What you would get is you'd get an annual every year with miniatures showing the different parts and the sprues, and it wouldn't have the prices in them because with the annual you'd get this mail order price list, and what you would do is you would find the model you're looking for, and then have to find it in here, and then either jot down the code and the description, the publication, like which annual it's in and which page, how much it is, the quantity you'd like, and then a total price of the quantity, and then you tot it all up, put the subtotal, things like that. Then you put your name and address. You'd send this off in an envelope to Games Workshop, to Nottingham, and then they would set up your order and then post it to you. And they took big pride in being able to post it to many places. I think I read somewhere in one of these mail order price lists that they prided themselves on being able to deliver to many places. I think even to a submarine once. Maybe they flew the models in on a Chinook. Anyway, that's my bad joke of the day, so I won't talk to you anymore. So that's how you used to order, either completing this mail order form or giving their trolls a call. They actually call them trolls. It says here, mail order trolls will be happy to help. And obviously they were called trolls for a long time, until there were more sort of negative connotations with that, and then they stopped calling their employees trolls. but anyway, what we're going to do today is, I know Sunday is usually like a watch day or a knife day or a motorcycle day. This is actually going to be still a Warhammer video day, and we're going to go through this entire 1999 annual. We might go through a couple of the pages of the prices of ones that I'm kind of more intrigued about. I mean, straight away what hits me there, in 1999, Space Marines Tactical Squad, £10 for the box set. So 10 Space Marines, £10, pound per mini. I mean, if you look at the very recently up for pre-order Battle of the Rohirrim, I think a box set of 24 miniatures. I know they're not Space Marines in terms of number of parts, but they are now £31 for 24. So we're way past that, even with miniatures that contain fewer parts. And if you wanted to go, the proper equivalent nowadays, with Primaris being the main Space Marines in their range, a box of Intercessors, which are kind of like the tactical Space Marines but with far fewer options, they're £40 for 10. So you're now paying £4 more, 4 times as much for basically a Space Marine as you were 25 years ago. On this current trajectory, is it fair to say that in another 25 years it will be 4 times the amount that the Intercessors are going for? So £160 for 10 super Intercessors or super Primaris or something, I don't know. I very much doubt it will be £160 for 10 Space Marines. If I'm still around in 25 years, let's see what will happen. But that's what we're up to now, and I'm not quite sure in terms of number of parts compared to the old tactical box set, but I don't think it did consist of 266 components, let me put it that way. I think there were fewer. That being said, let's now start the video. So 1999 annual, 25 years ago. We're going to go through the whole thing. This is it's kind of split. This book is in, I think, 4 different languages there. It starts off with Warhammer 40,000, Space Marines, plastic Space Marines. There's the tactical squad, and this is back when they actually praised the design. It says here, designed by Jez Goodwin, not suitable for children under 8 years. They're all the sprues that you get. There's a plastic Space Marine, so you can pick up like individual sort of sprues. So if you wanted the flamethrower, the missile launcher, the chainsaw, the missiles, the head, and like the sergeant sprue and the banner, you could pick that up. If you just wanted 5 power packs, they call them backpacks, but the power plants of Space Marines, you could pick up those. Then you've got the bolter sprues and so on. And now, so they were the plastic side of things. You also had the metal side of things. Now, in terms of pricing, they definitely had you know, individual so take the heavy plasma gun, for instance. You'd have to have one of those, and one of those. So if we just, for example, have a look at this. So Devastators, heavy weapon arm. There isn't really a heavy weapon arm, so they don't call it like a plasma. I mean, they call it a heavy plasma gun as well. Of course, it's a plasma cannon now, but it would be the same price. So you'd get the arm, which is £2, so you'd have to put that in. Then you'd have to put the left arm, and you'd have to, you know, specifically write the code, because it's different codes for different heavy weapons. Then the backpack or ammunition pack now as well. So you've got, it says Devastator Sergeant, Devastator backpack. So you'd get the £2 for the weapon, 75p for the arm, and then 75p for the backpack. So £1.50. So it'd be £3.50, please, for one plasma cannon, the arm, and the ammunition pack. That's how it would work out. Okay. Then you've got, look, jump packs. I think that they are, I want to say that they're plastic. We'll see. It says comes as a single sprue. So Assault Marine, there we go. Assault Marine body, jump pack, £2 each. I'm not sure. I kind of think that that is a metal jump pack. £2 seems a bit steep for it being just plastic. But there you go. So we just go through this. You've got jump pack Assault Marines. You've got Space Marines. These are metal ones. Scouts were metal back then. I've got a load of metal scouts. You've got the Terminator Captain. I've got a metal Terminator Captain. You've got the Commander. This is like kind of the command squad. You've got different chaplains. This is probably a nice trip down memory lane for you guys. You've got the Tech Marines. You've got the Librarians. Marnis Calgar and Tigurius. You've got Asmodai and Ezekiel, as well as Azrael. Azrael's just had his new miniature. I think, was that last year he had his new miniature? Well, this year, I can't remember. You've got Apothecaries, Mephiston. A lot of these miniatures I still have in metal. Some Captains, Space Wolves, Sergeants. Now the Dreadnought, you see. So Space Wolf, Dreadnought. Did we have a normal Dreadnought at some point? Does it come later? Yeah. So normal Dreadnought comes later. Just out of interest, let's have a look at what a Space Marine Dreadnought cost back then. So we have, this is all in order, which is fantastic. So Space Marine Dreadnought, £25, but you can of course buy separate pieces of it. You know, the lower body is £2, the sarcophagus itself is £4. You know, so if you just were after a power fist, you could buy a power fist at £1. You know, so £25 for the Dreadnought. I do have a few of those metal ones, but anyway, let's get back. So Space Wolf Dreadnought, Legion of the Damned. Where are Primaris Legion of the Damned? You know, I think that's a well that Games Workshop haven't tapped into yet. It would be nice to see those come out in Primaris. Would they actually come out in Primaris though, or would they come out in the Firstborn sized? You've got Terminators, so plastic Terminators here, and then metal weapon options for them. So you've got the Assault Cannon and the Heavy Flamer, Stormbolter, and then And then Deathwing Terminators, you've got Chain Fists, Wolfguard Terminators, the Dreadnought, of course, in different sarcophagi. Space Marine bike, that's all in plastic. But then you had like these little extras which were metal, like the chaplain on bike, he was a metal miniature on the plastic bike. You had these parts which were metal that went on to the plastic bikes. You've got the old attack bike there with the metal weapons. I do have one of those. You've got the Land Speeder, which is all in plastic. You've got the Rhino, which is in plastic. Look at those gaps. You could park a Rhino in those gaps of the Rhino sprue. I'm not sure why I've you know, folded that page. Maybe I'm planning to buy a Razorback. I think I'm a bit too late for that. But yeah, you've got the Razorback gun. They just call it Razorback gun, but in reality it was a las cannon and 2 plasma guns together. So yeah, this is when you had the plastic Rhino like kit, and then if you wanted it to be a Predator or Razorback, you'd have to well, you could buy the set itself, but you could also buy these parts separately, which were all metal. So you had a combination of a plastic and metal part tank. You got the Predator Annihilator, obviously in the Space Wolves, because apparently lore-wise, that's where it originated. Space Wolves did that. That's what they say. Then you've got the Bar Predator. I do have a metal Bar Predator. You got the Whirlwind. Now, this was kind of like the first model I ever saw. My friend, clever guy, he bought a Whirlwind, and that sort of got me into Space Marines, really. So it's because of that particular model. Never bought one, but yeah, he had some Space Marines, and he wanted to get a Whirlwind because he liked the idea of, you know, being out of sight and firing it from a long range, even though it didn't really do much damage to other Space Marines armies, and that's what everybody played with. Dark Eldar. So look, you got some of these in metal, even like a Dark Eldar Lord, Warp Beast, Witches, Raider. I will be going through these pages quite quick because it is a 500-page book, guys. So you've also got Tyranids, so you've got some Gene Stealers. I think they're in plastic, but they're the old ones. Hive Tyrant, look at that Hive Tyrant, looks brilliant. Look at that Lictor, all in metal. So a lot of the Tyranid range was metal. Look, you've got Warriors, which look completely different to what they are now. You've got these, which look very similar to Xenomorphs, look, with the head and the mouth there. These Hormagaunts, they look, yeah, they definitely look like Xenomorphs back then. You got the Screamer Killer, which is the Tyranid Carnifex. It was just called the Carnifex back then. Looks different than it does now. You got one of these Zoanthropes that actually had legs, and you got the Ripper Swarms. Scared the willies out of me. Then Eldar. I've actually got some metal Eldar Rangers. And look at these Scorpions and Fire Dragons. I've got all of these in metal except for the Swooping Hawks and Warp Spiders. I've got some metal Wraithguard, Eldrad Ulthran. You've got Exarchs as well. I've got Azuman, I've got Fugan. I think I've got Karandras. I've got Morgan Ra. Wow, Metal Avatar. How much was a Metal Avatar back then? So if we just go to Avatar. £15 for a Metal Avatar back in '99. The Avatar now is £67.50. So well over 4 times the price now, but I think you'll agree that the new Avatar is absolutely stunning. It won my favourite model of the year when it was released a couple of years ago, I think. You've got more Eldar metal miniatures like these War Walkers, which are way better now. You've got the Wraith Lords. I've got a couple of those in metal. They kept breaking all the time just because they're heavy. Jet Bike, they'd only just brought those out in plastic, I think, in the late 90s. The Fire Prism, these particular parts were metal. That made it an absolute nightmare to pose on that thin plastic base. Now everything's in plastic for it, so it works better. You couldn't buy a Wave Serpent back then. I built my own Wave Serpent out of, you know, bits of plasticard. Chaos Space Marines, a lot of their range were metal, especially like the Havocs. And like the Plague Marines, you know, if you had a Plague Marine army, you were loaded. And Chaos Terminators, they were all metal. not like the standard Space Marines, the Loyalist ones. You got some Sorcerers, Abaddon, the Despoiler. He was £9 back then for that miniature. He is now £44. So he's almost 5 times the cost now. But he is an absolutely gorgeous miniature, isn't he, in plastic. You've got Karma the Betrayer then, and Araman and Fabius Bar. They've all had their new miniatures, I think. Chaos Space Marine Dreadnought, they just look so cool. I loved all these layered plates that they had, and their weapons looked awesome too. Juggernauts, and then you've got Chaos Cultists. And then Imperial Guard. So we had some Jungle Fighters of Kata-Chan. You've got the Cadian Shock Troop. See, so we've got less now than we had back then in terms of like uniqueness. You know, it'd be nice to see some Cadians. Ice Warriors of Valhalla. That would be cool if we got those. We've got Mordian Iron Guard. More Mordian. Talan Desert Raiders as well. More Desert Raiders, Praetorian Troopers, more Praetorians, Rough Riders, Captain Chenkov of Valhalla, Jungle Fighter Captain. So no Deathcore Krieg, as you can see. You've got Imperial Guard Commissars, you've got Rattling Snipers, Yarrick, Ogrins, Sentinels. Here we go. So again, this is like a combination kit where you had the Lehman Russ was in plastic, but it had like the metal cupolas and hatches and demolisher cannons. You had the Imperial Basilisk. I think that was all in plastic in the end. You've got the Hellhound, which had parts that were metal. You've got the Griffin that had a fair few parts in metal. You've got the normal Lehman Russ and the Chimera. They're the plastic sprues that you could get separately. Orcs, so orc weapons, and Gretchens. I think I've got a few metal Gretchens somewhere. Knob, there you go. You thought you'd escape. I know I didn't show you my knobs in Orc Vember, but here I am in December showing you one. Orc war bikes and war buggies. They look so small nowadays if you see these. You know, the Scorcher was cool. I wish that they brought that back. Big flamethrower on the back of a tank tracked vehicle. Sisters of Battle. So, you know, Sisters of Battle for a long time, for like 20 years or so, over 20 years, were only available in metal. Very cool, lots of detail, lovely miniatures. Of course, now we've got some stunning minis in plastic for them. That was the Immolator back then. It looks totally different to what it is now, with the pane glass windows and things, and the, you know, swapping out the heavy flamers with the, or Immolator for heavy flamers with the multi-melters and things. You had some Redemptors and Missionaries, Uriah Jacobus, Imperial Assassins. So you got the Eversaw. Would have liked to have got that version of the Eversaw. I do have the Calidus and the Vindica Assassin. I think I just have that one, and then the Calexus. So only 4 assassins back then. Not sure why I've bent that page again. Probably I'm about to buy a metal assassin. This was your ruined buildings back then. Just a couple of sprues. These were your trees, your plastic trees. Anybody remember plastic trees? Vehicle accessory sprues, and that was it for 40k. So 160 pages of 40k. Gorka Morka, if anyone remembers Gorka Morka, again, lots of metal minis for orcs, Gretchens, orc boys, some vehicles. You've got these copters called blitz carts. You've got the grabbers, the wrecker trucks, war trucks, buggies, rocket buggy, harpoon tracks. A lugger. You've got a Grot big lugger. That looks interesting. You've got Rebel Grot. So very Mad Max, I think. You've got Muti Raiders, whatever they are. So mutants, shamans. And that was it for Gorka Morka, not much. Necromunda still had a following back then. Lots of metal miniatures here. You got House Delac or Delaque. Goliath, Cawdor, so these were all available back then. House Escher, all in metal though. Van Saar. and then some bulkheads, some Goliath in plastic, rat skin chiefs, underhive scum, priests, pit slaves, scavies, I don't know how you'd call them, scaly even, spire hunters, plague zombies, and that's it. So a lot of Necromunda. You know, Necromunda had a fairly large model range. Epic 40k, so this is kind of like your Adeptus Titanicus, Imperial, Adeptus Imperialis. This is where it's come from, this Epic 40k. So we've got everything from tiny little metal land raiders with aerials to rhinos and predators, tank sprues, dreadnoughts, even individual dreadnoughts, thunderhawks. You know, you've got a metal thunderhawk there, Vindicator tanks. Now, an absolutely lovely Lucius pattern Imperial Warlord Titan. Absolutely incredible, that miniature. Not many parts, and back then that would have cost you £15 for a Warlord Titan. Now a Warlord Titan will cost you 1,200. No, I'm only joking. It's obviously for the Imperialis, but a miniature kind of Warlord Titan for Legions Imperialis will cost you £74. So quite a step up. But I will say that the Adeptus Titanicus, or Legions Imperialis as it's now called, those miniatures are absolutely gorgeous. Those Titans, they are not quite the size of a knight, but definitely consist of a lot of parts, hundreds of parts, and they're just a joy compared to this, which only had about probably just over 10 parts. The things that I do like about this Epic 40k is I do wish that they brought the Warlord Titan out in plastic, of course. You know, the Lucius patterns, not the Mars patterns. But you've also got this Tyranid Dominatrix. You know, that would be cool if they brought out some Tyranids for Imperialis, but I know that's kind of sort of set in Horus Heresy, so they might not do that for a while. You've also got a Horuspex, these things, Malefactors, Harridan was still around back then, looks a lot different than it does now. You've got Trigon, again, they look a bit different. You've got the Carnifex, Zoanthropes, and then you've got the Biotitan, the Hierophant Biotitan. Looks very different to what it is now, and obviously, you know, we can go about in Space Marine 2 and, you know, shoot one of these. You've got a Hierodule one as well, and then you've got Eldar, so grav tanks, walkers, Eldar dreadnoughts even, night spinners, fire prisms. You've got the Scorpions, the Vampire Raiders, they were quite big. You got Eldar Phantom Titan, so big Phantom Titan there. And Revenant Titans look very different to what they are now. You've also got some vehicles for Chaos, and you've got the Imperial Shadow Swords, Bane Blades, you know, Lehman Ross, this Death Strike missile launcher, which looked cool. Basilisks, Hydras, Bombards, Manticores, Orc Fortresses. So you've got some flyers, so Imperial Bomber and Thunderbolt Fighter. You've got the Orc Dreadnoughts, Speedsters, whatever they are. And some more Orc Minis. And then you've got the Orc Mob Sprue along with Battle Wagon. And then you've got the Squigoth. You've got a Gargant. Big old Gargant there. It'd be nice if they did bring out a proper Gargant. Then you've got a Great Gargant. And then, yeah, that is huge, isn't it, that thing? All metal, very heavy. War Buggies. And then you're into Warhammer. So this is kind of like old world, I guess. Oh, there we go, Bretonia. So some plastic, some metal parts. I mean, the amount of just parts that they produced back then, just crazy 25 years ago. All these individual parts that you could order individually. It must have cost them so much to make them all, and you know, post them off, and you know, get the orders right and things like that. Mounted Squire's Command, Mounted Sorceress, Heroes, Green Knights. Yeah, I'm not that familiar with Warhammer, like the old Warhammer, but this might be a trip down memory lane to you guys. Got some Chaos Sorcerers, got some Chariots. Of course, a lot of these are, you know, being brought back in metal form as well. It's kind of like a metal, plastic and resin, the three different sort of materials that they're bringing these back into for the old world. Bloodthirster, very iconic mini, that. And then the Great Unclean one. I must say that the resin one by Forge World looks immense, and then the plastic one as well now. You've got the Greater Demon Zinch. You've got some Pink Horrors. You've got some Demonettes. Fiend of Slanesh. You've got Archaon. That's what Archaon used to look like. You know, without his dragon and things. And then you've got a Baal the Undefeated. A Baal looks bigger, doesn't he, than Archaon. You got some dragons. I really did like the dragons back then. I thought they were awesome. Gorthor, Beast Lord Chariot. Some Dark Elves. There you go. Cold One Knights. Dark Elf Assassins. Yeah, so a lot for Warhammer. Look, another dragon. Al-Qatani Fellowship. Leopold's Leopard Company. Different Lost Legions. Wow. Dogs of War, these are. Desert Dogs. Birdmen of Katraza. I don't know what any of these are. Got some ogres. You got the Dragon Lord. Dwarfs. Dwarfs have just recently been released again, haven't they? Throne of Power. Gotrex and Felix. They look a lot different than they do now. Bolt throwers, flame cannons, gyrocopters. Empire. I think Empire have just had a release, or about to. Volley, so much for Warhammer. More for Warhammer than anything, I think. Got an Emperor riding the Griffin Deathclaw. Interesting. Deathclaw, I just think of Fallout, but there we go. High Elves. Lots of minis for High Elves. Elven Steed. More High Elves. Where's the dragon? There you go. Prince Imric, Lord of the Dragons. That's a nice dragon. Oh, there's a old bolt thrower. Yeah, High Elves look a little bit like Lumineth, I'd say. Lizardmen. Slan Mage Priest. A Stegodon. Plastic Orc Warriors and Archers, Orcs and Goblins. So you've got some Boar Boys. You've got the Fanatics there. And the Doom Divers. I think they're going to get a release, aren't they, soon? For Gloomspite Gits. There you go, you got some Netters, you got some Gobblers, you got some Night Goblin Squig Hoppers, so you still had Squig Hoppers back then, look, and Cave Squigs. You got a Snotling Pump Wagon. You got Morglum Neck Snapper. And then you've got Azhag the Slaughterer, nice dragon. and Goblin Wolf Chariot. So these are going to be released soon for Gloomspite. These wolves and wolf chariots. Rock Lobber. You got some ogres. You got some trolls, some old trolls. You got river trolls as well. And then the fortress. Can you guys remember the fortress? How much did the fortress cost back then? I seem to think it was over 100. I would say, yeah, £75. God, would I buy that for £75 right now? Definitely. That would be so cool. But back then, 75 was a lot. Warhammer Siege, then Skaven. So Skaven have had a new release this year, haven't they? So some of these minis have been, there you go, Vermin Lord. The new Vermin Lord looks amazing. You got the Skaven Screaming Bell. Got Skeleton Warriors Regiment, so this is all undead. Mummies, Wraiths, Wights, Necromancers, White Lords, Isabella von Karstein, that sounds familiar. Wood Elf Archers, Blade Guards, so these are all Wood Elves. Warhawk Riders, some Great Eagles, Tree Men. Ah yes, Wood Elf Forest Dragon. It's probably one of my favourite dragons actually. Ariel, Mage Queen of Lauren. And then Blood Bowl. You've got a Norse team, a human team, an Orc team, Dwarf team, Goblin team, High Elf team, Dark Elf team, and a Chaos team, an Undead team, a Chaos Dwarf team, a Skaven team, and some cheerleaders. And that's it, I think. Yeah, so you've got so many more Blood Bowl teams, and that is the end of it. I mean, that's just crazy, isn't it? This annual from 25 years ago, just showcasing just the sheer scale of what Games Workshop were producing back then. They were called Citadel Miniatures. They're all Citadel Miniatures. But just the amount of metal parts that were available that you could just order specifically, yeah, immense. What do you guys think of my trip down memory lane at this 1999 annual? There were certainly some fantastic miniatures back then, but you couldn't just kind of go online and just order what you wanted. You had to phone them up, phone the trolls up, and or complete that mail order form, or just pop in to your local Games Workshop store and hope that the parts and things were there in their little blister packs, as we called them. I think I used to go into the store a lot more than I would now, and that's crazy when you think about it, because, you know, unless you're new to the hobby, all you're doing is you're going into these stores and you're just looking at boxes, you know, and actually there's probably more pictures and more videos and things of the products that you're interested in online. So it's odd, that, isn't it, that, you know, obviously it costs them more in wages, the heating, the business rates, the rent probably if they don't own the buildings. Costs them a lot more now than it ever has to run these stores. And let's face it, they're not just around the UK, they're worldwide. So their outgoings must be more than they ever have been, but yet their stores kind of still offer the same. Probably less, definitely less compared to online. You know, you can't go into a store and open the box and, you know, test the miniatures out, or, you know, it's not like clothes shopping, is it? If you sat at home and you're watching a few of my videos or reviews or whatnot, you get a better look at that than, you know, having to travel all the way to your store. And, you know, I just think you get more online and in the comfort of your own home before you make that purchasing decision than you do now walking into the shop. But back then, that was the only way you could really do it, and there weren't really that many pictures online. And a lot of the time, the only time you see the miniatures is if your friends had bought them or if you went into the store. I definitely went into the store a lot more back when I was a child than I do now, even though I spend considerably more money than I did back then on the hobby. But yeah, what do you guys think of the annual? It's a little bit like the Argos catalogue, if you remember the Argos catalogue. It used to be a big book, a bit like this, with all the products in and things, and that was just quite cool to look at and to go through and to make like a wish list. Of course now, as I say, everything's online and it's just impulse, isn't it? It's there, it's just one click away. You can just, no consequences, I guess. You can just click it and then it'll come the next day or 2 days and you've got it. Whereas back then you got one of these, you looked at the miniatures, you made a wish list, you decided, you build up army lists and things, and then you eventually pulled the trigger. There was more of a gap between you making a purchasing decision and parting with your hard-earned cash, whereas now it's too easy. It's too easy. Anyway, please do put your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below of what miniatures from 1999 you would love to see return. There seems to be a lot of older miniatures returning in plastic form for, between 4 and 5 times the price that they used to be. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.